I'm going to talk about the brain tissue damage I'm left with after having COVID on the 22nd of February, which is a couple of months ago. And it's a known factor in the current coronaviruses, that the virus infects the brain tissues, the brain cells, and it causes inflammation. It will cause some brain cells to die. It will thin the brain tissue in some areas, and that just lessens or weakens the capacity for the function in those areas. And it also causes scarring, so damage again. And then it mostly affects the left hemisphere of the brain, which is language, words, numbers, forming words, getting words to be recalled, and then forming sentence structures. So we all know that experience when we're trying to put a sentence together or grab a word. So that's what I've been left with, that struggle, but it's more than that. So I'm going to talk about that today. And this is for acknowledging some of you who are going through this. You are not crazy, and I want to talk about what you can do to reverse it. It is said that it's only partly reversible, and the numbers that they've given around it is that the impact of that brain damage post-COVID is 6 months up to 2 years. Now, for some people, it will be non-reversible. For others, it'll be partly reversible. And for some, it'll be completely reversible. And the reason why, it will depend on how you approach your recovery. So what nutrients you're putting into your body, how you're using and exercising your brain is going to be really relevant. And also then if you have any genetic predispositions, so that's going to impact it as well. But however, no matter whether you have a genetic disposition or not, you can absolutely grow back your grey matter and your white matter. You can grow back brain cells. So it's going to depend on your diet and your lifestyle. Absolutely. So let's talk about that. So when we get the coronavirus, it's a huge viral burden, and this coronavirus attacks the brain. And it particularly attacks the left hemisphere, and it has a persistent long-term effect. And I've written down the effects that I had when I had it. And here's the thing, I have a speaking career. I run workshops and I do coaching, and it is founded on, I have to have exceptional attention to my participants. I have to have exceptional recall of what they've just shared with me. I have to really be able to focus and remember what they've just said, and also then access my own intelligence in order to respond to what they've just said. And that's absolutely crucial in my role, in my entire future, and I value it so much. However, post-COVID, it's been 2 months. In the first month, it was absolutely awful because I just felt like I was dumbfounded. I was just like, my brain was empty. I'd have moments of clarity, and then I'd just feel stupid. So I couldn't recall even what I just said in a conversation. And I normally, let me just base this, I should have said this already, but I have an exceptional ability to use my brain because that's what I practice. So I have an exceptional memory. I have an exceptional capacity to focus for hours on end. Yes, I'm aware that focus doesn't last hours on end, but I have that exceptional capacity of knowing when my focus is waning, how to disrupt that and come back, or how to have a brief break and come back. But I can work for 10 hours and not lose that focus. And I remember stuff like crazy, and I can really remember what you say to me. I normally, with my workshops, it's now right back since the beginning 5 years ago, I still remember details about you participants, what matters to you about your children or your pet, or what was in your way. Like, I still remember that stuff. However, post-COVID, not so much. I couldn't recall what I just said. I couldn't recall where I put something, even though for absolutely years, I have the same spot for everything. My purse goes in the same spot. My keys go in the same spot. I have that habit so that I'm not ever having to worry where something is. I couldn't even remember where that was. I couldn't, if you said to me, what did you do today? I couldn't tell you, let alone yesterday. I had very little access to the higher intelligence centers of my brain, and I couldn't really recall. I struggled to recall names and numbers, and that makes sense given what I just said. And I was mostly in the survival part, so the survival part of the brain and in my nervous system. And here's the thing, even in mild cases of coronavirus, there's brain cell damage. I'm not even going to talk about the lungs, that's a different aspect. There's brain cell damage, and it sits in the central nervous system, so it damages the nervous system, which keeps us in our survival because we have a heightened response to survive. So we are overstimulated, our nervous system is overstimulated, and so we are definitely in the survival mechanism, which also impacts our ability to get out of the survival mechanism and up into the higher intelligence centers. And I literally felt so stupid sometimes, like just could not get my brain to work. I'd either just blank out or I'd be like foggy. It was awful. So here's the thing though, you can, there are things not to do and things to do, and I want to share this with you as a qualified expert in natural medicine. And I'm going to give you quickly one of my stories about how I had a great fall from 1.5 stories. I snapped one of the neural pathways in my brain. I had the leading neuroscientist in Melbourne treat me for a year, and I was told that I would have early onset Alzheimer's and that I would have brain damage, permanent brain damage. And however, I went away with my knowledge as a naturopath, as a natural medicine doctor, and I implemented diet, nutrition, diet, supplements, lifestyle, and brain exercises, cognitive exercises. And I was doing things like Feldenkrais, and I was doing kinesiology, so balancing left and right brain hemispheres. And I went back a year later, and the neuroscientist himself was dumbfounded because I'd grown back those pathways that were necessary to recall language and words and names and numbers. And I'd had a complete recovery, 100%. And he said it was a remission. But anyway, so I rely heavily as a part of my lifestyle on medicinal mushrooms. And I've just got like a really bare minimum to give you, but the main ones for post-COVID, post-coronavirus, no matter which one you got, mine was pretty full on, trust. So I may have, like I had a viral overload. Anyway, medicinal mushrooms, lion's mane and chaga, C-H-A-G-A. Plant medicines, ginkgo biloba, brahmi, and ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is for the nervous system, the others are for the brain. Minerals, now I'm going to suggest 2 minerals, however, we must have all of the minerals. You're probably better off just getting a colloidal mineral supplement, because minerals travel in pairs, and those pairs travel in pairs, and those pairs travel in pairs, and they all need each other in order to transport through the body so that you don't end up with an imbalance. You need zinc, but if you have too much zinc, you end up with a copper imbalance, so that's why you need a colloidal mineral supplement. But zinc reduces the inflammation in the brain, therefore slows down the damage. And magnesium. Essential fatty acids, so your omega-3s, your flaxseed oil, very important for brain health. And it's even if you didn't have corona, if you're concerned about Alzheimer's, omega-3s and all of these. The amino acids, which are the protein chains, and you need all of them, but I'm just going to suggest L-theanine and L-carnitine. And they're, no, I'm not going to go into why. You can do that. And then choline, so acetylcholine. So because it forms new synapses in the brain. So that's how I grew that pathway back. And the spice, curcumin. So that's anti-inflammatory. What not to do? Well, that's pretty simple. Things that cause inflammation, therefore damage and brain cell damage, outright sugar. And the absolute maximum, they say, is 2 teaspoons, and I'm going to say you don't want to get beyond 1 teaspoon of sugar a day, and that is super easy to do. You don't even have to put sugar into your coffee or tea or your beverage. It's in loads of foods, especially processed foods. Anything that's processed causes inflammation because it's high acidic. Trans fatty acids, so fried food, even shallow frying, even with olive oil. Processed foods, heavy metals, so that'll be environmental pollutants. Like when you drive in a car, you're better off having only the S. I know it seems counterintuitive, but don't circulate the air in from outside unless you're out on a road where you're the only car and it's trees and bush, because you'll be bringing in the heavy metals from the car. So you don't really want to have your window open or your vent open to the outside. However, I understand that sometimes we do. Anyway, anything that causes inflammation or leaves toxins or heavy metals in the brain. A good thing to remove heavy metals from the brain is bentonite clay. You can just drink it. We used to, traditionally, we would have clay in our diet just by eating tubers and things that came from the ground. So do I still have problem with memory and focus and recall? Yes, I do. The thing about the damage in the brain in the left hemisphere is that the memory recall, the way we recall memory is through triggered emotions. And it attacks the emotion center in the brain. So if you're not able to have the emotion come up strong enough to be triggered, so what that is a smell will remind you, so vanilla, the smell of vanilla might remind you of the past, and then you have a memory triggered or a stream of memories triggered. You don't get that. That's the damage, and that's really freaking unfortunate, because one of the best ways to train your brain is through emotional triggers. So the damage sucks, and the good news is that is reversible, but it takes time. How long? It depends on you. I'm 2 months in. I only have some few moments through the day, and they're really small compared to just big blocks of time. In the beginning, it was really disconcerting and scary. So avoid COVID. That's it. Avoid COVID. I'm double vaccinated and boosted now. I do not want to get COVID again. I do not want any more tissue damage. I do not want to get lung tissue damage. There's other viruses that can damage your tissues. The one that I got did brain tissue damage. So look after yourself, and do that through your nutrition and the way that you manage your mindset first. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Much love, much respect. Hey, bye for now. Bye, beautiful humans.